They're suing me for something I didn't do. It's just the most bullshit thing. And I literally had to pay them a lot of fucking money.
Here's the thing about Jake Paul and Netflix. This situation just blew up far bigger than anyone expected, and we're talking a full-blown legal battle that's about to get really messy. Jake Paul just got hit with a lawsuit from Netflix, and this all came right after that brutal loss to Anthony Joshua. I watched the whole thing unfold in real time, fully aware of what it was supposed to be, how it was marketed, and what it actually became. This wasn't some random exhibition match or celebrity sideshow. This was sold as the real deal. And the gap between expectation and reality? Absolutely devastating.
That Gervonta Davis was being very difficult to work with and Netflix was just waiting for it.
Now, let's break down what Netflix actually put together here, because the scale was enormous. This was positioned as a Netflix heavyweight event, streamed globally to millions of subscribers, and sold as serious, legitimate boxing. Not influencer nonsense, not a charity exhibition where nobody really gets hurt. This was Joshua versus Paul on Netflix, happening in a real professional arena, with actual judges scoring every round, doctors monitoring both fighters, cameras capturing every angle, and heavyweight championship level presentation throughout. The production value alone made it clear what they were trying to accomplish. Netflix saying, "We belong in the boxing business. We can compete with the traditional platforms, and we're going to prove it with this massive, meticulously produced event."
He's fine. We met with Netflix afterwards. He took a shower. He drove himself to the hospital. A broken jaw is very common in sports, particularly in boxing.
And Jake, man, Jake walked into that arena like he owned the entire sport, like he was the king of confidence, acting as if he was built differently from every other fighter out there, completely fearless, seemingly untouchable in his own mind. That was the branding. That was the entire pitch being sold to the audience. The problem, the massive, glaring, impossible-to-ignore problem, was the man standing across from him in that ring. This wasn't some retired mixed martial artist chasing a payday, not a basketball player dabbling in boxing for fun, not a nostalgia act trying to relive past glory. This was Anthony Joshua, former two-time unified heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, a legitimate world-class fighter with over a decade of elite competition baked into his muscle memory and instincts. Joshua had spent years, actual years, getting punched in the face by real heavyweight contenders, not social media boxing influencers or carefully curated opponents designed to make him look good.
6 rounds.
The experience gap was honestly embarrassing when you break down what each fighter brought to that ring. Joshua had Olympic pedigree you can't fake or buy, multiple world titles earned against legitimate competition, championship rounds under the brightest lights in boxing, and, perhaps most importantly, losses that actually taught him meaningful lessons about the sport and about himself as a fighter. Jake, on the other hand, had highlight reels edited for maximum impact, hype clips designed to go viral, and a carefully managed list of opponents who were either past their prime or never belonged in a ring with a serious athlete. The physical mismatch was somehow even worse than the experience gap. Reach advantage, mass difference, raw power, timing developed over years, composure under pressure. Joshua had all of it without needing to show off or prove anything. Jake, meanwhile, relied on noise, spectacle, and theatrics just to survive in that environment.
Not only did you not get knocked out, you dropped and said, "Wow." I was like, wow, that was nice. I was on the ground, I was like, that was a good shot.
Did he surprise you with his power?
To be honest, no, but I mean, he surprised.
This fight marked the first time Jake Paul actually stepped into a ring with a prime, active, world-level boxer who had absolutely nothing to gain by holding back and everything to prove to critics questioning why the fight even happened. There was no storyline protection, no narrative cushion to fall back on, no way to spin a loss into a moral victory, just pure, undeniable risk. From the moment the opening bell rang, it was written all over the ring, all over both fighters' body language. This was no longer about Jake winning. That dream died in the first 30 seconds. The fight became about surviving without being completely exposed too fast, managing damage, making it through enough rounds to save some semblance of face. Because when the loss inevitably came, it wasn't just about getting knocked out in a boxing match. It was the live, global witnessing of the entire Jake Paul business model cracking. That carefully constructed illusion, that confidence, self-belief, and social media followers could replace genuine skill and experience, finally died in front of a massive audience, and there was nowhere left to hide from it.
Looks like Jake Paul is trying to bait him into something, but he's the one that's hit the canvas twice in this round. Incredible.
From the opening seconds of that first round, anyone who understands boxing could see exactly what Jake's game plan was. Move constantly, avoid direct engagement whenever possible, grab and clinch when Joshua got close, reset to a safe distance, and repeat that cycle over and over. There was no dominance in his movement, no control of the ring, no attempt to impose his will, just footwork aimed purely at survival, at staying upright as long as possible. And here's what people often miss. Joshua let him do it. That's the crucial detail. Joshua deliberately slowed the pace, measured the distance with surgical precision, took mental notes about Jake's patterns and tendencies, and understood that in a fight like this, fatigue and accumulated damage do most of the work before power shots finish the job. Jake circled the ring like someone desperately trying not to drown, like a man in water over his head, fighting just to keep his mouth above the surface. Every clinch was a breath of relief, a moment to recover and reset. Every time the referee separated them and restarted the action, that was borrowed time, a few more seconds of survival. Joshua didn't rush any of it. He waited patiently like a veteran who's been in this exact situation 100 times before. That's what genuine championship-level experience looks like in practice. When you know the other guy is spending massive amounts of energy just to exist in the ring, just to stay conscious and upright, you let him tire himself out while you remain fresh.
I love this shit, and I'm going to come back and get a world championship belt at some point.
Are you surprised you went 6 rounds with the former 2-time unified heavyweight champion?
Honestly, I'm not surprised. I just got tired, to be honest.
Then the 5th round happened, and that's when everything completely collapsed for Jake in a way nobody could deny or spin into something positive. 2 knockdowns in the same round, not from chaotic, wild exchanges where luck can play a role, but from pure accumulation of damage, from balance completely gone, defensive technique unraveling in real time, legs stiff and heavy, breathing labored and desperate. That round stripped away every illusion, every piece of the carefully constructed image. Jake wasn't unlucky. He wasn't the victim of bad judging or questionable refereeing. He was simply, undeniably, completely outmatched by a far superior fighter. By the 6th round, everyone in the arena and at home knew what was coming. It was inevitable. One clean, perfectly timed power shot from Joshua, delivered with no theatrics, no controversy, no questions about legitimacy, just pure physics, force meeting flesh in a way human bodies can't withstand. The referee stepped in and stopped the fight because there was nothing left to prove, no reason to continue. Jake's body had already given up before the count was even finished, before he could fully process what had just happened to him.
Take care of me forever in there.
The reaction and immediate aftermath said everything about how people processed what they had just witnessed. People were shocked on multiple levels, shocked that he actually lasted 6 full rounds against a fighter of Joshua's caliber, but simultaneously shocked by how completely helpless he looked once real pressure arrived and there was no escape or reset. That wasn't bravery. That wasn't heart, determination, or warrior spirit. That was a slow, methodical, technical dismantling, documented from every camera angle with modern production technology, leaving nowhere to hide from the truth of what was happening. All the tough guy talk, the confidence and bravado that built his entire brand, evaporated in an instant. Within hours of the fight ending, Jake was being transported to a hospital for medical evaluation. No victory speeches this time, no chest thumping for cameras, no social media posts about moral victories, just harsh fluorescent lights, medical staff doing their jobs, running tests, taking imaging, and documenting injuries.
I think I pissed him off. What were you doing? I was just saying.
No worries. Sounds like you're just venting a bit. We can pause or switch gears, whatever you need.
I was talking but I just pissed him off. Then he broke my brother's jaw. His jaw, huh? Yeah, oh, he exposed his jaw. Yeah. You don't care. Jake's having a fucking blast. We'll see him back again for sure.
The medical diagnosis came back blunt and brutal, with no sugarcoating possible, a broken jaw. That was the initial report. Then it got even worse as more detailed imaging arrived. A double fracture, meaning the jaw was broken in 2 separate places. This wasn't a rumor on social media, wasn't speculation or exaggeration for drama. Actual medical imaging confirmed it beyond any doubt. Recovery estimates landed at 4 to 6 weeks at a minimum, and that's assuming no complications, no infections, no additional setbacks during healing. This isn't a bruise that fades in days, isn't swelling that goes down with ice packs. This is structural bone damage, and people need to understand what that truly means in practical terms. A fractured jaw affects everything about daily life. Eating becomes a challenge requiring liquid diets and careful planning. Speaking is limited and painful, making basic conversation exhausting. Breathing demands conscious attention to avoid complications. Training stops entirely, with no timeline for when it can safely resume. This isn't cosmetic damage you can cover with makeup or camera angles. This is structural trauma to the skull, the kind of injury that fundamentally changes how a fighter approaches combat, if they even decide to come back at all after experiencing something like that.
You asked me a question. Look, it wasn't the best performance. It wasn't the best. The end goal was to get Jake Paul, pin him down, and hurt him. That has been the request.
But Jake being Jake, true to form and brand, he immediately tried to spin it into content. Within days, social media posts started appearing. Jokes about the injury, bravado-filled captions, pretending to act tough, turning a serious hospital visit into engagement opportunities. Even his profile imagery on various platforms leaned into mockery and dark humor about the situation. There was no real accountability, no genuine reflection on what happened or why. Just endless branding, image management, and attempts to control the narrative. And that's where it got genuinely embarrassing to watch. He lost a fight in devastating fashion, then tried to turn the resulting trauma and injury into marketing material, and everyone watching could see exactly what he was doing. And it felt gross. The contrast was brutal. Here was a man who had spent months claiming absolute fearlessness, now documenting in real time the medical consequences of facing someone who actually belonged at that level. I didn't see a warrior in those posts. I saw someone discovering that confidence doesn't heal fractured bones, and cameras and clever captions don't cushion physical impact when it hits.
Congratulations on the win. How would you describe that fight?
Well, first of all, I want to give love to the crowd, everyone that came out. I really do appreciate it.
Fighters from across the boxing world weighed in almost immediately after the fight, and not a single one sounded impressed by Jake's performance. Many expressed genuine shock that the fight even lasted 6 rounds, but not because Jake showed brilliance or unexpected skill. The shock came from the fact that Anthony Joshua never had to leave second gear, never had to dig deep, never needed to show his full championship capabilities. The consistent takeaway from fighter after fighter was brutally simple and damning. Joshua didn't overextend himself, didn't chase recklessly, didn't panic while Jake struggled to survive, and didn't take unnecessary risks that might allow a fluke outcome. He waited with infinite patience, adjusted his approach as needed, and finished the job when it became convenient and safe. That detail mattered enormously to how fighters evaluated the performance. Any idea that Jake had somehow pushed a legitimate champion to his limits, that he tested Joshua in meaningful ways, completely evaporated under even basic technical analysis from people who truly understand elite-level boxing.
Lawsuit, and it's just allegations. It's not criminal, so they must.
Then the money talk took over, because with Jake Paul, it always circles back to money eventually. Estimates began circulating through boxing media and industry insiders that both fighters walked away with somewhere between $40 and $50 million each, with some rumors pushing the numbers higher, depending on back-end deals, pay-per-view points, and special Netflix incentives built into their contracts. That's when the tone of public reaction shifted into something uglier, more frustrated. The narrative formed fast. Jake Paul can lose badly, be completely dominated and knocked out, and still cash a massive check that sets him up financially for life. The loss didn't humble him, didn't teach him anything meaningful, didn't change his behavior. It insulated him, gave him financial security that makes future consequences irrelevant. That insulation made people genuinely angry in a way a pure athletic loss wouldn't, because fans can accept defeat. Every fighter loses eventually. That's the sport. What they cannot accept, what makes them furious, is someone acting victorious after being dismantled, counting their money, and pretending nothing significant happened. And now, this is civil lawsuit territory. Just allegations at this point, not criminal charges. But it has to be something substantial for Netflix to actually file.
He's done really well tonight. I want to give him his props. He got up time and time again. It was difficult in there for him, but he kept on trying to...
The comparisons people started making quickly turned cruel and personal, clearly rattling Jake's camp. He began being likened to viral marketers and influencers who sell hype and attention better than substance, people who understand algorithms more than actual skill. A spectacle salesman, brand first, boxer distance second. Someone who knows exactly how to trend on social media, provoke reactions, and monetize attention and controversy, but completely folds when real athletic pressure arrives and skill actually matters. That perception damaged it hard because it stuck in public consciousness in a way a simple loss never would. Losing the fight alone would have been survivable for his brand and career. Losing and then immediately pretending it was a moral victory, a strategic win, or proof of something positive about him made him unbearable to watch for huge portions of the audience.
Class and, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up to me and said, "Mom, it's just boxing.
It's the fight game.
It's just the fight game."
I'm obviously...
While the boxing world argued endlessly about Jake's legitimacy and future, Netflix suddenly stopped smiling about their investment. The focus shifted with astonishing speed from punches and athletic performance to paperwork and legal strategy. This fight wasn't just content for them, not just another show in a catalog. This was their flagship entry into elite boxing, their proof that they belonged in the same conversation as established fight platforms with decades of history. Jake Paul was supposed to be their bridge, loud enough to generate attention, controversial enough to drive subscriptions, profitable enough to justify the investment. Then came the bombshell, the canceled super fight, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis, originally scheduled for November 14th in Miami. That event was supposed to be even bigger than the Joshua fight. Tickets sold quickly, marketing campaigns were already live across multiple platforms, advertising inventory had been booked and sold, sponsors locked in contracts, production crews staffed, and venues prepared with millions spent. Netflix had committed serious money before a single glove was even touched. Internal projections reportedly approached $120 million in total event value, including subscription revenue, advertising deals, sponsorships, and long-term positioning in sports streaming. This was not a casual gamble. Costs were already paid with no recovery possible without the fight. Then Jake canceled everything unilaterally. No gradual exit, no compromise, no rescheduling, just a decision that set everything on fire and left Netflix holding the bag. Their lawsuit didn't allege confusion or miscommunication. It alleged willful breach of contract. Willful, meaning Jake knew exactly what he was doing and did it anyway. That distinction matters because it speaks to intent and damages. The lawsuit demanded $100 million in damages, with lost profits potentially pushing that number higher once discovery revealed the full financial impact. This wasn't about punishing him for changing his mind. It was about accountability and precedent. You cannot blow up $100 million events without consequences. Jake's credibility as a reliable draw took a devastating hit that will follow him for years. Platforms and advertisers do not forget behavior like this. Netflix leadership was reportedly furious. Executives were embarrassed publicly, and brand trust with advertisers took real damage. A company built on precision and reliability suddenly looked reckless, having bet heavily on an influencer fighter who treated contracts like suggestions. Jake didn't just lose a fight. He burned a multi-billion-dollar company's patience and goodwill in one catastrophic move. His public image is now scattered, contradictory, and probably beyond repair in large segments of the audience. Once sold as fearless and unstoppable, he's now widely labeled evasive and unreliable. Once marketed as disruptive and revolutionary, he's seen as flaky and unprofessional by industry insiders. Public reaction is split nearly down the middle. Supporters insist he took a moral stand. Critics call it fear wrapped in virtue signaling. The argument is exhausting, but the consequences are very real and mounting daily. Sponsors are reconsidering associations. Future platforms are hesitant to trust someone who cancels massive global events without care for collateral damage. Legal battles drain focus, money, and career momentum, no matter how loud your online persona or how many followers you have. While lawyers talk and file motions, actual training stops. While cases drag on, opportunities vanish to other fighters. The boxing world has already passed its judgment in the court that actually matters. Respect is earned in the ring through performance, not press releases or social media captions. You don't get credit for what you almost did or planned to do. You get credit for what actually happens under the bright lights, when you can't edit, can't control the narrative, and can't escape the truth of your performance.